What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast with Justin and Brandon. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe we are here talking about this championship going down to Abu Dhabi. Yes, we're here to react to the Qatar Grand Prix, but that's not what's on our mind after this weekend. We can't believe McLaren is giving this championship away. We can't believe Max Verstappen is 12 points off the lead. I have never been more excited about the sport of Formula One. Brandon, how the heck are you feeling?
I'm feeling very similar feelings. I mean, I'm just pumped. The way this weekend played out is absolutely wild, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, Max Verstappen is going to win the World Championship. You heard it here first. So
we are not even a minute into this episode, and Brandon is making bold statements like that. It's not going to help you out in our predictions championship, but if it comes true, I certainly would be happy about that. We started watching this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I was sad. I said, oh man, the championship's over. Max is out of it. Maybe Oscar has a fighting chance. McLaren said, instead of favoring one of our drivers, we're actually going to back Max Verstappen for the championship to keep things fair. I cannot believe it. We have so much to talk about. So, Brandon, what is your one-sentence rundown from the Qatar Grand Prix?
My one-sentence rundown is at least McLaren have already won the Constructors' Championship, but because if they hadn't, they probably would fumble it away at this point. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. It was a rough weekend from McLaren, obviously. Probably the worst strategy call I've ever seen in my entire life. But as Lando's race engineer said, Max did lose all flexibility for the rest of the race. So there was that. But yeah, that was my one-sentence rundown.
Yeah, I saw that on our prep sheet, and I said, this is the most savage one-sentence rundown I've ever seen you write in my life. But it's completely true, because if the Constructors' Championship was up for grabs next weekend as well, McLaren would probably find a way to fumble that away as well. I don't know if it was the worst strategy call that I've ever seen, because I've been a Formula One fan long enough to see some of the stuff Ferrari has done to Charles Leclerc and take years off of that man's career. So maybe not the worst, but it certainly has to be up there. Potentially the most foolish and costly strategy error that I've ever seen in my life. Like, how are we doing that? It rolls right into our first question, which is, how have McLaren fumbled this championship so hard? Last time out in Vegas, they had a double DSQ. We said, surely that's it. It cannot get worse than this. Surprise. We show up to Qatar and they make one of the most costly strategy errors I've ever seen. Once again, they did not want to favor one driver. We've been doing this whole thing all year where we're trying to keep it fair, and instead they leave them both out, so they have to make up an entire pit stop. Max Verstappen gets an entire pit stop advantage. Max said it best himself. He's in this championship fight because of McLaren's own mistakes. So in your mind, is it McLaren's fault if they lose this title to Max Verstappen?
I mean, yes, I agree. I mean, I don't know, talked about this a dozen times now this year, about mistakes that, I mean, I remember talking about before the summer break, like, we might look back on X, Y, or Z and be like, this is the moment that lost them the championship. And now it's not a single moment, but it's a pattern of behavior that I think has led them to lose this championship. I mean, going back to another thing Max said is that if he was in the McLaren, the championship would have been wrapped up a long time ago, which I believe. I mean, Max doesn't allow mistakes like that to happen because, he would simply just overrule the team, which he's done plenty of times. And that's worked out pretty well in Red Bull's favor. So.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot convince me that if Max Verstappen wasn't driving that McLaren, that we wouldn't have seen another 2023 levels of dominance from Max this year. So that's pretty insane to think about it. There are some things that's outside of the driver's control. Like, you have to feel bad for Oscar Piastri having the best weekend he's had since maybe even before the summer break. He did everything right. He was P1 all weekend long and all the qualifyings in the sprint race. Probably should have won this race on pure paces while he was driving away at the front. And for him to just watch McLaren give this race away, you've got to feel bad for him. And really, Lando Norris did nothing wrong either. He's the first to question the team when Max goes in. He's like, shouldn't we just have followed Max in if we knew we were going to keep Oscar out? Like, there was no reason for me to not pit. And so I feel like McLaren have done it to themselves. They've put themselves in this bind. And I mean, you said it best, that it's not like one moment where a championship is lost. It happens over the course of a season and all these little moments. It feels like every little moment McLaren has been stacking has been a decision in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it definitely does. And in the interest of fairness, it's like, it's not fair to either of the drivers to keep making decisions like this, to be honest. So if you want to talk about fairness, that's my take on it. But it's just really an interesting way to approach a championship, and I don't think it's a good one to be successful with.
Yeah, I just can't believe that we're in this situation with how much pace McLaren had at the beginning of the weekend. Oscar Piastri winning the sprint race so handily. Both drivers qualifying so far ahead of Max Verstappen. Max even getting out qualified by Yuki Tsunoda at the beginning of the weekend. Like, I cannot believe that we're sitting here in this situation saying Max gained more points on the championship and he's still in this fight. Like, that's insane to me. Not to take anything away from the incredible year that Max Verstappen has had and this comeback that he's pulled off, and he's done some amazing things in that car. But you have to sit here and just be like, how on earth is this championship going down to Abu Dhabi? Like, how have McLaren let this happen and let Max Verstappen back into this fight? Like, it's almost incomprehensible to me that they have been doing this stuff for pretty much 2 years now. They've just been making mistake after mistake after mistake. I cannot believe that it's happening.
Yeah, yeah, it's silly is the word that comes to mind, but you would think that we would learn from our mistakes and we would build on the experiences we've had to try to make them better. But I mean, who knows what 2026 will bring with the pace of different cars? Who knows if McLaren will be up at the front fighting? But it'll be interesting to see, however this plays out this year, what effect it'll have on McLaren going forward.
Yeah, there's no situation in my mind where there's not an increased level of toxicity within the team, no matter what happens this year. Like, if they both lose, everybody's mad. If Lando wins, the Oscar Piastri, Mark Webber camp is going to be incredibly mad. If Oscar somehow wins, not to stir the pot, but I feel like Zach Brown's not going to be a very happy guy. And then if we get to 2026 and they're like the 5th fastest car because they went all in on this championship and this was their one shot to win a title, then nobody's happy. Their fans aren't happy. The leadership isn't happy. Neither driver's happy. Like, I just cannot imagine the levels of fallout that we could see happen after Abu Dhabi if it doesn't go their way.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and Zach Brown's been a part of the team for quite a long time now. So what does this have on what impact does this have on his legacy? Is my question.
Yeah, well, I feel like his legacy has to be somewhat cemented. At least like 2023, it was cemented when they were starting to be quick again and it looked like they could win. And now he's just taking a sledgehammer to his legacy in some people's minds and just absolutely destroying it, which is very unfortunate to see. We've got to ask the question that everyone's probably thinking. Who is going to win the championship in Abu Dhabi? Lando Norris still leads the title, so he's got to be the betting favorite. But Max Verstappen is somehow only 12 points back, with Oscar Piastri another 4 points behind Max. All Max needs is the exact same result from this weekend to win the championship. In your mind, who's the favorite?
I mean, I think the mathematical favorite, like you said, has got to be Lando Norris. He's still got a 12-point lead, passing Kimi on the last lap this weekend to maybe the thing that ultimately ends up winning him the championship. So that was important. It'd be a little bit different of a conversation if there was only a 10-point gap, but I think Lando is the mathematical favorite. But I mean, all the momentum is in Max's camp, and even Oscar, I feel like, has some momentum. He had solid weekend, not a terrible result, P2, on the podium. That was better than his teammate was able to manage. So it's, I think all the momentum is in Max's court. So
Yeah, I've got to say that Max is the driver with momentum right now. If I look at it logically, I'm going to say, okay, Lando Norris is going to win. Surely McLaren is going to be the fastest car in Abu Dhabi. It's another one of those tracks that's going to suit their car. Max could struggle here a little bit because the track has some of the characteristics that the Red Bull is poor at. But then I just throw all those things out the window and say, it's Max Verstappen in Abu Dhabi. Where have we seen this happen before? And he didn't have the fastest car in 2021. He had some luck go his way. Who's to say that we don't see that again? But who's to say that one turn one incident doesn't turn this championship completely wide open? Like, we're going to see Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri driving with pressure that they have never felt before. And we used to have this image of Oscar Piastri as this calm, cool, collected man. That has kind of been chipped away some since the summer break. We've seen Lando Norris crack under pressure many, many times before. And we've said it already. Now that it's Max Verstappen in his rearview mirrors, that's a whole nother level of pressure, a whole nother monkey that Lando Norris has been trying to get off his back for 2 years that he hasn't been able to do. He's been trying to get a leg up on Max Verstappen. We saw it happen in Las Vegas, how he gave that away and couldn't come out head to head against Max Verstappen. So who knows what's going through the McLaren driver's mind? Like, this is, in my mind, I know that the gap is 12 points and Lando's the favorite. I feel like the championship is wide open, even with the things that might be going against Max right now.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And, you touched on it briefly, but 2021, Max was in this exact same position. So if there is anybody who knows how to handle it, it's him, and it's the people on the pit wall at Red Bull. I mean, GP was also with Max during that time. So it's like you've had people that have made strategy calls in a championship deciding race in Abu Dhabi before on the pit wall and in the garage. And, McLaren definitely doesn't have that. They very nearly, Lando won in Abu Dhabi last year and sealed the Constructors' Championship for them there. But, I mean, it was still possible that they could have lost the Constructors' Championship to Ferrari in Abu Dhabi last year. I think that experience is really going to come into play and help Max out as well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone watching this video could look us dead in the eyes and say, if I had to pick between Red Bull and McLaren to make a championship winning strategy call, I'm going to pick McLaren. No one is thinking that right now. Like, Red Bull does have the experience in the situation, and McLaren have showed us that they can fumble a race when it's not a championship deciding race. So when you heap on that pressure, I cannot imagine what comes out of that pit wall.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. And whatever happens, I just can't wait to see what Zach Brown says about it, because he's gonna hold on to those papaya rules till the day he dies. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's lay out a situation. Max Verstappen is winning the race. Lando Norris is P4 and Oscar Piastri is P3. They ask the drivers to swap. Do you think Oscar does it?
God, I've thought about this scenario already. I was thinking about this yesterday. If I'm Oscar, I say no. Enough's enough, I mean, and what has Lando done for Oscar this year? I mean, if anything, Oscar's been asked time and time again to move out of the way for Lando, and if I'm Oscar, I'm saying no, because if he can't have it, then why should Lando?
Yeah, for sure.
That's just me.
I feel like Oscar, I don't want to say he gets no benefit from doing that. I guess it helps the team, but he loses the championship either way. He already feels like the team favors Lando. I would bet any amount of money Mark Webber and Oscar Piastri have already had this conversation. I think the answer has already been decided that Oscar would not move out of the way to help Lando Norris. I don't know if that sounds selfish. That sounds like an outsider. That sounds like someone who wants Max to win. I guarantee that conversation has happened, and I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And to be honest, Oscar Piastri's still in the fight too. If Oscar was mathematically out of the championship, then we're talking, a completely different conversation. Obviously, you do what you can. You do what Sergio Perez did in 2021, and try to help your teammate win the championship. But that's not the situation we're in. Oscar's still going to be in the championship, so there's no reason for him to move out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Oscar Piastri's shoes and you're 10 laps to go, Lando's behind you. I mean, we still live in a sport where there's reliability issues. So who's to say, something doesn't happen to Max, something doesn't happen to the driver in front of Oscar, there's a safety car restart. Like, there's all these other factors to consider on as well. So I think the answer is no. I'm glad we're in agreement on that because I believe we're probably right on that. Let's talk about something a little bit happier. Carlos Sainz, what a drive from Carlos Sainz this weekend. Williams was supposed to be absolutely terrible at this track. Somehow, Carlos Sainz scores in the sprint and secures another podium on Sunday. I don't think anybody saw this Carlos Sainz podium on Sunday. In case you're wondering, the score is still 2-0 to Carlos Sainz over Lewis Hamilton on podiums this season, and one of them's driving a Ferrari, and it's not Carlos Sainz. He looked like the Carlos Sainz we all know and love since the summer break. He looks like he's the true #1 driver in that team. So we've got to ask the question, if Williams really do deliver a car for next year, should we be talking about Carlos Sainz as a championship threat?
I mean, if Williams deliver the car, I see no reason why not. Carlos has proven time and time again that he is a consistent driver. He is a race winner, proven race winner, and now in a tougher team, a tougher car to drive. Well, I don't know, maybe not a tougher car to drive, but in a completely new situation, he has adjusted well and brought success to the team. And I think we can credit that to Carlos. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton is also in a new situation, and he hasn't really brought a lot of success to the team so far.
Yeah, we'll talk about Lewis Hamilton in a second, and not to take away from him being the statistical GOAT, but it has been a rough season for him at Ferrari. But Carlos Sainz certainly has to be in the championship conversation next year if Williams deliver the car. Like you said, he is one of the more consistent drivers on the grid. And at the beginning of the year, it felt like, oh man, like maybe Alex Albon has been underrated this whole time. He's got a leg up on Carlos. But then once Carlos got settled into the team, it has felt for a while now that this is Carlos Sainz's team. I mean, since the summer break, he got the podium at Baku, the sprint podium in Austin, and now a podium here in Qatar. Like the gap is closed down to, I think, like 7 points between him and Alex Albon. So at this point, give me another Carlos Sainz podium in Abu Dhabi. Let him finish ahead of Alex Albon. Like that would be crazy to happen. But yeah, I mean, it feels like it's Carlos Sainz's team at this point. And so if Williams does deliver the car, I think Carlos Sainz is more positioned than Alex Albon to be the one to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I will say I do think that Alex has had a great year, and you know, I think Alex has been a little bit underrated in previous years, and I think he's certainly stepped up with Carlos and the team as well. So a good season from Alex, but yeah, Carlos has definitely cemented himself as number one there.
Yeah, Williams officially locked down P5 in the Constructors' Championship this weekend. They would not have been able to do that without Alex Albon's incredible performances at the beginning of the year. He was very consistent to start the year, brought home some good results and some changeable condition races towards the beginning of the year. So definitely a team effort, and and as they say in Formula One, you're only as good as your best race. So everyone is looking at Carlos Sainz having these amazing results. Alex Albon is still ahead of him on points, so he has had an incredible year as well. Do not want to take anything away from Alex Albon, that is for sure. You teased it a little bit, so we've got to ask the question, what is going on with Lewis Hamilton? Back-to-back poor weekends for Lewis. I don't even think poor is a good enough. Back-to-back terrible weekends for Lewis Hamilton. It just feels like it's getting worse. Knocked out in Q1 both times this weekend. No pace overall. He sounds sad in all his interviews. He looks sad in all of his interviews. This feels worse than it ever got with Mercedes last season. Yes, Ferrari has definitely underwhelmed this year. We thought they were going to contend for the Constructors' title. Nowhere close to that. They're probably going to go this year without a win. Lewis might go this entire year without a podium. But in your mind, is this a Ferrari problem or is this a Lewis problem at this point in the season?
I mean, at this point in the season, I think it's both. I think, and those problems feed off of each other. So at the beginning of the season, it started out as a Ferrari problem. Lewis got frustrated, and him being sad and dejected and talking about, oh, I'm just awful, and Ferrari needs to go find a new driver. Like all these comments he's made throughout the season. Like obviously that doesn't help improve the relationship he has with the team. And as Ferrari continues to kind of make more mistakes and stuff like that, Lewis only gets more frustrated, leading to more comments like that, which further damages the relationship he has with the team. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of both, but right now it seems a little bit more like a Lewis problem. The car at this point in the season is what it is, and they're not going to make any more changes, obviously. And, Lewis is consistently off of Charles's pace. So, the way I see it is like both problems have led to this moment, but right now it's more of a Lewis thing, and it's probably more of a mental thing than anything else, because he like you said, statistically is the greatest driver of all time, so there's no reason for him to be thinking like this, yet he is. So
Yeah, it's not like Lewis Hamilton forgot how to drive overnight. So there's certainly blame to share on all parties in this one. I'm just so confused by this right now, because you would expect a driver in a new team to follow the Carlos Sainz trajectory, where at the beginning of the year, you take some time to figure out the team, and then you slowly build up. And then by the end of the year, you're in the full rhythm, you're delivering the results, vibes are high, can't wait to go into next season. Lewis, I felt like the gap between Lewis and Charles was overstated at the beginning of the year. Everyone was hounding on Lewis. The points gap around the summer break was like 10 points. There were a couple weekends that he was beating Charles around the British Grand Prix, was right there with Charles. So it wasn't that bad of a year. As we finished off the season, the gap has gotten bigger, and it has been pretty poor. And so I don't know if this is like the same trend we saw last year, where Lewis kind of fell away with Mercedes towards the end of the year, if he's following that same trajectory with Ferrari, and that's just who Lewis Hamilton is now as he's getting a little older. At the end of the season, he trails off, or maybe he's just not gelling with a team in the car and things are just compounding and getting worse, like you said. Either way, I think 2026 is the make or break year for Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, if you're Ferrari, even if you're underwhelmed with his results, you're not firing him over the season. There's no chance that that happens. But 2026, if it's still this level of performance, if it's still this big of a gap, if he's still this far behind Charles Leclerc, getting knocked out in Q1, qualifying 7 positions behind his teammate, at that point, even though it's Lewis Hamilton, conversations have to be had.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And his contract runs through the end of next year. So, I mean, the way I see it playing out is if Ferrari shows up to testing next year and they've got a marginal at best car, kind of like they have this year, then it's like, at the end of the season, they'll probably come to some kind of mutual agreement, is what they'll call it. And, Lewis will probably retire because I've said it before, but I don't think Lewis is very interested in driving a mediocre Ferrari around Formula One tracks for any longer than he has to. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. But especially with, a driver like Ollie Behrman waiting in the wings, who only seems like he has been getting better and better across his rookie season, who is a part of the Ferrari Driver Academy, who everyone thinks will be in a Ferrari someday. If you have a driver like that waiting in the wings, it is a tough balance if you're a team. Like, how long do you wait for this driver who is such a media icon, who is such an icon of the sport, who has performed so well? How long do you wait for him with his performances when you have this younger driver waiting in the wings who could potentially perform better and bring better results to the team?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously they've invested so much money in Lewis Hamilton and, on and off the track. And that's obviously a significant, probably reason why they aren't having those conversations right now. But I mean, as we get, further into next season, like that money's been spent already. So at what point do you cut ties? I don't know. It's a tough question to ask, but I think probably a necessary one at some point.
Yeah, definitely a tough question. Luckily for us, we just get to talk about it from thousands of miles away, somewhere in a factory in Italy. Ferrari are the ones who are having to make those tough calls and not us. We just get to speculate and have fun talking about it. We made some predictions for the Qatar Grand Prix. Going into this weekend, I was leading 50-46, my first opportunity to clinch the championship. Let's see how it went down. Driver of the weekend, I said Nico Hülkenberg, which was incorrect thanks to Pierre Gasly taking him out of the race on the 9th lap of the Grand Prix. It spiced up the race, which I appreciate, but did not spice up my predictions.
Yeah, and I went with Carlos Sainz, which we've talked about him a lot already. That one was very correct. It was a great weekend from him.
Yeah, I made a joke that Carlos Sainz was going to DNF both sessions because of you, and what did he do? Put it on the podium. So that is certainly a point for Brandon. Back marker of the weekend, I said Oscar Piastri. That could not have been more incorrect either. I started this weekend off on a heater of bad predictions. This was potentially Oscar Piastri's best weekend since the summer break, so certainly not back marker of the weekend.
And I picked Esteban Ocon, which, it was not a good weekend from Esteban. Unlike Ollie, who has been trending up, Esteban's been kind of all over the place, especially this back half of the season, and it was not a solid weekend from him at all.
Yeah, Esteban Ocon has certainly been trending downward, and as soon as the race got underway and I saw that under investigation for a jump start come up with Esteban Ocon, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Of all the drivers it could be, this one that Brandon predicted is going to get a penalty right off the rip and give him this point. Absolutely unbelievable, but great predictions from you so far. Sprint pole, I said George Russell, which was incorrect.
And I said Kimi Antonelli, which was also incorrect.
Yeah, disappointing weekend for Mercedes. I expected them to have more pace, and they just kind of let me down all weekend long. Sprint winner, I said Max Verstappen, which was incorrect.
I also said Max Verstappen, which was incorrect.
Pole prediction, I said Max Verstappen, which was incorrect.
And I also said Max Verstappen, which was incorrect.
In P3, I said George Russell, which was incorrect.
And P3, I put Lando Norris, which was close, but incorrect.
In P2, I said Lando Norris, which was incorrect.
In P2, I put Kimi Antonelli, which was incorrect.
And in P1, I said Max Verstappen, which is correct.
And I also said Max Verstappen in P1, so correct.
Our one push-in prediction, I predicted that a driver that qualifies outside the top 3 would finish on the podium. Carlos Sainz, bang, get in there, P7 to P3. Let's go. That's a point for me.
Yeah, fantastic pick there. My one push prediction was that Yuki Tsunoda doesn't finish above P14 in any session. Maybe that was a little bold, little ambitious because he did qualify P5 for the sprint, so definitely did not get that point.
Yeah, predict him to qualify horribly, and he out-qualifies Max Verstappen. So get in there, Yuki. Play some defense for me. The fans also made some predictions. At Walker Blake 5, Verstappen wins the sprint, and Lando does not finish the Grand Prix. That is incorrect. At Your Motorsports Guy, Max and Mercedes 2-3. That was incorrect as well. And at F1-1244, Stroll will DNF on lap 1. That was incorrect. After this weekend, it is 52-49 in my favor. Our championship battle is also going down to Abu Dhabi. You've got some points to make up, but I'm feeling pretty good where I'm at right now.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tough one. The sprint weekend, I really needed to make up a little bit more, but gained a point, and that's great. So we'll see what happens in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real struggle for me to make my predictions. Like, should I play it safe or should I predict what I want to happen and just let my heart do all the talking next weekend?
And we'll have to wait and see. You'll have to come watch our next podcast episode to see what Justin chooses to do.
Yeah, and you got to come back and see if Brandon can make this up as well. It is certainly a race week. We're going to Abu Dhabi next weekend, so Brandon is right. We will be back next or later this week to predict the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We don't even have to wait a full week. It's going to be a couple days. We're making predictions. It's race week again. I'm so excited. Brandon, what are your parting podium thoughts?
Man, I'm just pumped for Abu Dhabi. Haven't been this excited since 2021. It's going to be an amazing finish to the season. And yeah, I just can't wait to see what happens.
I know. I'm so excited for this race, but it hit me like 10 minutes before we were going to record this podcast. I was setting everything up and I was like, man, like after this, we've got one prediction and one reaction left. And that's it. We're at the end of the season. The season has flown by. It has been such a joy to get to talk about Formula 1 with you guys, but we're not done. We've got a championship battle to decide on track and in our predictions, so make sure you check those out. As always, thank you for watching or listening to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast. Before you go, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all the things. We will see you later this week to predict the final race of the season. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix will be decided. Until then, have a great day and God bless.
See ya.